Documentaries are films that serve not only as a record of our life and times, but also as a mirror of society. These non-fictional accounts cover nearly all aspects of our reality, from the moment we're born to the day we die. While documentaries are intended to be a reflection of the world, there are times when the subject matter leads viewers to question the film and the filmmaker's intent. Some themes are so shocking and disturbing that the recorded reality becomes a source of intense debate. It's with these films in mind that we count down the 10 most controversial documentaries of all time. Number 10 is Mea Maxima Culpa, Silence in the House of God, by Alex GIMME. This 2012 documentary by Alex GIMME explores a deeply charged issue: pedophilia in the Catholic Church. GIMME's film traces the abuse of 4 deaf men from the St. John's School for the Deaf in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, tracing the cover-up from Milwaukee to the churches of Ireland and, ultimately, the Vatican. Terry Cahote, Gary Smith, Pat Kewen, and Arthur Bedinsky set out to expose the priest who abused them during the mid-1960s at St. John's School for the Deaf. Each of the men brought forth the first known case of public protest against clerical sex abuse, which later led to the sex scandal case known as the Lawrence Murphy case. Through their case, the film follows a cover-up that winds its way from Wisconsin through Ireland's churches all the way to the highest office of the Vatican. The film's title derives from the Latin phrase Mea Maxima Culpa, which translates into my most grievous fault. Number 9 is The Act of Killing by Joshua Oppenheimer. During the one-year span between 1965 to 1966, a genocide took place in Indonesia. This 2012 documentary delves into the history and ramifications of the murders of somewhere between 500,000 to 1 million people by government-sponsored paramilitary forces and gangsters. The film focuses on the gangsters that were elevated from the black market to become one of the most powerful death squads in the entire country. After a failed coup in 1965, Muhammad Suharto overthrew the first president of Indonesia, Sukarno. This is when the death squads took form. These groups had now formed into powerful organizations that boasted members including government ministers. In telling the story of the genocide, Oppenheimer tricks participants into reenacting the massacre. He portrayed the documentary as being a film that would praise their atrocities and paint their actions as heroic. The result had several individuals involved in the massacre reenact the actual killings. Because of this, we see an unsettling account of the killers' mentalities and how little human life was valued at the time of this genocide. Number 8 is Night and Fog by Alan Resnais. Recorded 10 years after the end of World War II, Night and Fog focuses on the horrors of the Nazi concentration camps. The title of the piece is taken from Nacht und Nebel, a directive from Adolf Hitler on the 7th of December 1941 targeting political activists and resistant helpers. This directive led to forced abductions and disappearances throughout Nazi Germany's occupied territories. Resnais combines film recorded in 1945 at the liberation of the camps with his own footage of the abandoned sites of the Auschwitz concentration camp complex and the Majdanek extermination camp, describing the conditions at both. Resnais addresses the sadism inflicted upon the doomed inmates, including torture, so-called scientific and medical experiments, executions, and prostitution. A portion of the film is shown completely in black and white and depicts images of gas chambers and piles of bodies. Due to censorship issues, some shots of the corpses were taken out of the documentary, and one shot of an apparent French officer was obscured to mitigate any association of France's involvement with the Holocaust. Number 7 is The Bridge by Eric Steele. This 2006 documentary caused controversy when it was premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival, and for good reason. It shows footage of real suicides, people who leapt to their deaths, and into icy waters off the Golden Gate Strait. Steele and his crew filmed San Francisco's iconic Golden Gate Bridge continuously during daylight hours for all of 2004 and recorded 23 of the 24 known suicides off the bridge in that year. The footage of all these deaths is only the beginning of the controversy, as Steele and his crew were criticized for not trying to prevent these suicides. In addition, Steele lied to the officials for the Golden Gate Bridge, stating that he intended to capture the powerful, spectacular intersection of momentum and nature that takes place every day at the Golden Gate Bridge. Another grim omission by Steele occurred with his interaction with the victims' families. He interviewed the suicide victims' relatives and friends, and he did not inform them that he had footage of their loved ones' deaths. Andrew Pulver, film critic for the British national daily newspaper The Guardian, said that The Bridge could be the most morally loathsome film ever made. Number 6 is Gimme Shelter by David and Albert Males. This iconic documentary, named after Give Me Shelter, the lead track from the album Let It Bleed, chronicles the last weeks of the Rolling Stones' 1969 tour. It only follows the final 10 days of their tour and finishes at their disastrous free concert that was held in Altamont. The ill-fated free concert at the Altamont Speedway in North California is memorable for being mirrored with violence, poor organization, and the deaths of 4 people. One death that was caught on camera by the filmmakers and became the focal point of their film was that of an 18-year-old, Meredith Hunter. Hunter attempted, with other crowd members, to allegedly force his way onto the stage and as a result was struck by the Hells Angels who were acting as security for the band. Hunter then drew a revolver before being beaten by Hells Angel Alan Pissarro and was stabbed at least 6 times, dying as a result of his wounds. Hunter's stabbing was captured on film by at least one of the many camera operators filming the documentary and appeared in the final cut of the piece. Pissarro was charged with murder and after a 17-day trial was acquitted on the grounds of self-defense. The Males brothers have been criticized for indirectly causing the violence, but the true extent to whether or not the camera's presence may have influenced the chaos at Altamont will never be entirely clear. Number 5 is The Thin Blue Line by Errol Morris. The Thin Blue Line is a 1988 American documentary film by Errol Morris, depicting the story of Randall Dale Adams, a man convicted and sentenced to death for a murder he did not commit. Adams' case was reviewed and he was released from prison approximately a year after the film's release. As such, the documentary was billed as the first movie mystery to actually solve a murder. The director, Errol Morris, was formerly a private investigator. Through the documentary, he uses the medium of film in order to review the evidence of the 1976 murder case against Randall Adams, who had been convicted for murdering Dallas police officer Robert Wood. It's through his documentary-turned-investigation that the film is considered controversial, as the suspect in the case, David Harris, finally admits Randall Adams' innocence and indirectly confesses his own guilt. The tape recording made by Morris was subsequently used to reverse the verdict and release Adams from his life sentence, which had initially been a death sentence. The film's title comes from prosecutor Doug Mulder's comment during his closing argument that the police are the thin blue line separating society from anarchy. Number 4 is Blackfish by Gabriella Cowperth-Waite. Blackfish is a 2013 documentary that centers around the life of Tilikum, an orca whale that was kept at SeaWorld. Cowperth-Waite began to work on the film after the February 2010 death of Tilikum's trainer, Don Branco, and in response to her claim that the orca had targeted Branco due to her choice in hairstyle. Cowperth-Waite argued that this claim had been completely conjured up, and that there had to be more to this story. Through the viewpoint of Tilikum, Cowperth-Waite creates a disturbing view of the experiences that killer whales have when they're held in captivity. The documentary covers the traumas of capturing orca whales from the wild, as it includes Tilikum's capture in 1983 off the coast of Iceland. It focuses on separating orcas from their young at theme parks, and the wrongs of confining orcas within the same enclosure. The piece includes clips that shows Tilikum being harassed by fellow captive orcas at Sealand of the Pacific, incidents which the filmmaker claims contributed to Tilikum's reported aggression. Cowperth-Waite also focuses on SeaWorld's claims that lifespans of orcas in captivity are comparable to those in the wild, typically 30 years for males and 50 years for females, a claim the documentary argues is false. Many of the trainers who spoke in the piece claimed their words were twisted to fit its slanted agenda to sensationalize tragic incidents. SeaWorld 2 released a statement asserting that throughout the documentary, The director neglected to portray the organization accurately. Michael Scarpuzzi, the vice president of the zoological operations and trainer for SeaWorld San Diego, says the documentary uses Branco's death and gruesome details to not inform the public, but rather regrettably because of the desire to sensationalize. In January of 2014, the family of the late trainer said neither they nor the foundation named after her were affiliated with the movie, and that they did not believe it accurately reflected Branco or her experiences. Number 3 is Crumb by Terry Zwigoff. The subject of this 1994 documentary is underground comic book artist Robert Crumb. The artist rose to fame in the 1960s with his unique style featured on the cover of Janis Joplin's Cheap Thrills album. His one-panel comic, Keep On Truckin', was published in the first issue of Zap Comics in 1968, and it was quick to become the icon of 1960s optimism. As a retrospective of Crumb's life, the documentary also includes footage of Crumb's reclusive and suicidal older brother, Charles, whose mental illness and self-proclaimed pedophilic tendencies in his teenage years left him housebound for decades. Charles went on to commit suicide prior to the documentary's release. The film also features Crumb's younger brother Maxin, a panhandler and a painter with his own inner demons. While Zwigoff reportedly had the consent of all of the Crumb brothers, the mental issues plaguing Charles and Maxim led to some question as to whether or not the more disturbed brothers were capable of providing such consent. Adding to the controversy was the way in which Robert Crumb clearly evidences pleasure as he recounts the sexual fantasies, wild impulses, debauchery, and racist and sexist themes that exist in his artwork, revealing the strange inspiration and disturbing mental processes behind his creativity. Number 2 is Jesus Camp by Heidi Ewing and Rachel Grady. Considered radical and eye-opening, this 2006 documentary by Heidi Ewing and Rachel Grady is about the evangelical Christian community located in America's Bible Belt, specifically the kids of Fire School of Ministry, a charismatic Christian summer camp located just outside Devil's Lake, North Dakota, and run by Becky Fisher and her ministry, Kids in Ministry International. The filmmakers expose the world to an intense culture of devoted people, and follows 3 children who attended the Kids on Fire summer camp in 2005, Levi, Rachel, and Tori. Over the course of the summer, the children are taught that they have prophetic gifts and can take back America for Christ. All 3 of the children were already very devout Christians. Levi was homeschooled and was taught that global warming is a political speculation. Rachel was seen praying over a bowling ball during a game early in the film, and also shown passing Christian tracts to strangers, telling them that Jesus loves them. Tori is a member of the Children's Praise dance team at Christ Triumphant Church. She is depicted dancing to Christian heavy metal music and tells the filmmakers that she has to check herself to make sure she isn't dancing for the flesh. At the camp, Fisher is shown stressing the need for children to purify themselves in order to be part of the army of God. She told the camera, "I want to see young people who are committed to the cause of Jesus Christ as the young people are to the cause of Islam." She also said, "I want to see them radically laying down their lives for the gospel, as they are over in Pakistan, Israel, and Palestine." The film was nominated for Best Documentary Feature at the 79th Academy Awards, losing to another very popular documentary, An Inconvenient Truth. And number 1 is Capturing the Friedmans by Andrew Harakey. Perhaps one of the most controversial, if not the most notorious documentary in recent years, is the 2003 film Capturing the Friedmans. The director, Andrew Harakey, had started off originally with a short film entitled Just a Clown, about children's birthday party entertainers in New York. One of the subjects of the short film was a popular clown named Silly Billy, who was portrayed by David Friedman. Doing background on Friedman uncovered the fact that his brother Jesse and his father Arnold had pled guilty to child sexual abuse. Harakey discovered that the Friedman family had an archive of home movies. Inspired by this revelation, Harakey interviewed some of the children involved in the high-profile abuse case and turned his short film into a documentary about the Friedmans, showing the 1987 investigation by the US Postal Service into Arnold Friedman's life. The US Postal Service had intercepted a magazine of child pornography sent to Friedman from the Netherlands. Upon searching the Friedman home, investigators discovered a collection of child pornography. Suspicions immediately arose of possible sexual abuse as Arnold Friedman taught children computer classes in his home. After a lengthy and public investigation, Arnold Friedman pled guilty to multiple charges of sodomy and sexual abuse, as did his son, Jesse Friedman, who also claimed that his own father had molested him. Arnold Friedman also admitted to sexually abusing his younger brother Howard when they were both children. In 1995, Arnold Friedman committed suicide whilst in prison, leaving a $250,000 life insurance payout to his son Jesse. For his part, Jesse Friedman was released from prison in 2001 after serving 13 years of his sentence. Capturing the Friedmans is highly acclaimed by critics and won the Grand Jury Prize at the Sundance Film Festival for 2003, and was also nominated for an Academy Award for Best Documentary in 2003. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, don't forget to click that like button. I'll leave a link down below to another list I did about controversial media, and you can also tap one of these boxes if you want to see that. All of the footage used, music, and sources will be linked down below. But like I said, that's all for now. As always, until next time.